Vanakkam. Now we are going to see another very important head in FEMA, that is FEMA 1999. This is with a specific reference to capital account transactions. What are all called as capital account transactions that we are going to discuss here, and we are not on all other individual transactions that we will discuss on a later point of the presentation. Here we are going to discuss only with reference to capital account transactions, what are all called as capital account transactions that we are going to discuss. And the disclaimer, I'm going to start with the disclaimer. The views expressed by me is only my view. For clear understandings, please refer FEMA 1999. I am not responsible for any wrong interpretation. But with this disclaimer, I want to present today's topic that is relevant to capital account transactions. Now, foreign exchange. Who is authorized to do deal foreign exchange in India? It is only the authorized dealers, they are authorized to do deal with the foreign exchange. So authorized dealers are called as almost banks are also called as the authorized dealers. They have been appointed, the licenses have been given by the Reserve Bank of India. So this foreign exchange can be withdrawn or can be remitted or can be sold to the authorized dealers with reference to all capital account transactions. So this presentation is related to foreign exchange transactions, and this is subject to RBI regulations. Anything subject to RBI regulations. And this is capital account transactions. Before going to that, please refer section 6.1 of FEMA, because foreign exchange can be sold or withdrawn from authorized persons. And there is a prohibition. First thing, you have to know what is the prohibition. All capital account transactions are prohibited specifically. But if it is permitted by FEMA, it is permitted. So first thing you should know, all capital account transactions in foreign exchanges are prohibited. If it is permitted, you can do it. And another thing is, all current account transactions are permitted unless it is prohibited. So this is a difference that you should know. Capital account transactions are prohibited. Current account transactions are permitted. But if it is specifically say that it is prohibited or permitted, then you can do it. But everything depends on the RBI directions. So this basic point you should know. All capital account transactions are permitted. All current account transactions are permitted. But if it is permitted or prohibited by RBI, you can do it. Now, we are going to discuss about the capital account transaction, which is called as CAT. Means, what is CAT means? Before going to that, this meaning definition is being stated in section 2E of FEMA. So CAT, capital account transactions, are defined in section 2E. It covers, this section 2E covers 6 important heads. One is related to change in assets and liabilities. Second one is transfer or issue of security, borrowing and lending. Then fourth one is currency and currency notes and immovable property dealings. Then guarantee giving. All these 6 heads have been defined by section 2E of FEMA. And we will see in detail on later part, but we will discuss about the meaning of section 2E of transaction, which is in short form. We used to call it as CAT. And applicable persons to whom this CAT is applicable. It is applicable between the person resident in India and person resident outside India. That is, person resident in India can undertake transactions outside India. Person resident outside India, he can come and take the transactions in India. What are the rules and regulations that we will see later? Here, we are going to discuss about the persons, applicable persons. Person resident in India, he can make the transaction outside India. And resident outside India, he can make the transaction in India. And first, we will discuss one of the major 6 heads, that is change in assets and liabilities. That is, this is also between person resident in India. So here the transaction which is being carried out by person resident in India, if it alters that the transaction, if it alters the asset liabilities or contingent liabilities outside India, that is called as CAT, capital account transactions. Transaction which alters assets and liabilities or contingent liabilities outside India, because the transaction is being carried out by the person resident in India. And another person is resident outside India, he carries on transaction in India. Suppose if that transaction alters assets and liabilities and contingent liabilities, then those type of transactions are called as capital account transaction. In this presentation, we are going to see only with reference to the meaning of CAT. And now, transfer or issue of security. Person resident India, again person resident in India. Suppose person resident India, if he transfers any foreign security, transfer or issue of any foreign security, called as CAT. Now, person resident outside India, if he transfers any security, because for him it is a foreign security, but in India it is called as any security, as well as that person by a through branch office or agency, if he transfers or issues any security or foreign security, all are called as CAT. All are called as CAT, capital account transactions. So transfer or issue of security. Then borrowing and lending. Everything is subject to RBI limits. Borrowing and lending are also allowed. Any borrowing or lending or deposits between person resident in India, person resident outside India are called as capital account transactions. It can be done in Indian rupee. It also can be done in foreign currency and in whatever may be the form. And all this, that is borrowing and lending between resident, that is between person resident in India, person resident outside India are called as CAT. Now, going to the currency and currency notes. That is export, import and holding of currency and currency notes are called between person resident in India, that is by person resident in India, person resident outside India. Now, immovable property dealings. So, a person resident in India, he wants to buy a property outside India. So, person resident in India, he can transfer immovable property outside India. Person resident outside India, he can transfer property in immovable property in India. These are all part of called as CAT, capital account transaction. But this excludes a lease not exceeding 5 years. That is, any lease, if it exceeds 5 years, it is called as immovable property as per FEMA. If the lease period does not exceed 5 years, then that has to be excluded from the definition of immovable property as per the FEMA. And these type of transactions are called as capital account transactions. Guarantee effect. So a person in India can give guarantee to person resident outside India, and in the form of guarantee or surety. Plus, a person resident outside India can also give guarantee to person resident in India. And in respect of what? In respect of any debt, obligation, or other liability, and this effect of guarantee given is also part of capital account transactions. And now the capital account transactions have been specifically prohibited by FEMA. The following transactions. This is being prohibited by RBI through FEMA. And what are the specific prohibitions that we will see? So the following foreign investments, that is foreign investments prohibited in India by person resident outside India. A foreign person resident outside India, if he comes and invests in India in any company, firm or proprietors concerns, is prohibited in what are the companies, what are the firms, what are the proprietary firms? Chit funds, Nidhi company, agriculture and plantation activities. For this, no, there is a specific prohibition. That is, a person resident outside India cannot come and invest in India. that is in state funds, Nidhi company, agriculture and plantation activities, real estate business, and construction of the farmhouse. But it permits, it specifically permits through the regulation that permits development of township, construction of residential and commercial premises. It is only a premises, that is, if it is a plot development, it's a real estate development that is prohibited. Suppose if they are coming and promoting, that is any construction of residential commercial premises, roads and bridges that are permitted by FEMA, and trading in transferable development rights. It's all prohibited transactions. By, that is, person resident outside India, he cannot come and do and come and invest in this company, in this firm, in this property. Now we are moving to person resident outside India in foreign exchange. So person resident here is permitted to deal in foreign exchange with other by yourself for the CAT, that is capital account transaction, subject to the limits fixed by the. See, in India, normally there is a restriction that you cannot carry the foreign exchange from India and to the foreign, to the foreign countries. But everything is permitted, provided you have to get the RBI permission. Investment in foreign securities, in foreign currency loans raised in India and outside India, transfer of immovable property outside India, issue of guarantee to person resident outside India, export, import, and holding of currency and currency notes, loans and overdrafts from a person resident outside India, loans and overdrafts to a person resident outside India, maintenance of foreign currency accounts in India and outside India. It's all prohibited. It's all permit. That's all called as. This is all not permitted. This is all. One second. Called permissible capital account transactions. Permissible capital account transactions, and taking insurance policy from an insurance company situated outside India, that is permitted. Remittance outside India of a capital asset. Taking derivative contracts, that is permitted. It is permitted by 2% resident outside India. So here another permissible CAT, that is capital account transaction by a person resident outside India, is investment in India and security issued by body corporate or an entity in India, investment in the form of capital to the firm or proprietorship firm concern or AOP, immovable property or acquisition or transfer in India, import and export of currency and currency notes in India, deposits between person resident in India and person resident outside India, foreign currency accounts in India, it is permitted. Then remittances outside India, capital asset in India, undertaking derivative contracts, all are permissible transactions as per the definition of section 2E of the capital account. In this presentation, we have seen only the capital account transactions means as per section 2E of the FEMA. For each individual discussion, we will meet in the other presentation. Thank you very much for the patient hearing and watching my presentation. Nandri, Vanakkam.